Welcome back to the World Championship Series, everybody. Thank you to everyone tuning in from around the world on Twitch.tv. Thank you for everyone that came out here in the audience today. It's time for one final game. It's the decider match of Group E. Joining me for the first time today, Johan, also known as Tods. How are you doing?
I'm doing great. It's been a lot of fun, these games, and having Bling over there, the Queen's favorite soldier himself, as Roddy would say.
Yeah, the #1 Queen's favorite soldier.
This guy always full of compliments for me. And the bad today as well.
Shh, that's for the off-camera.
Hey, he's hit every prediction so far, Tods. Everyone. I think there's been a
Beginner's
one-map
luck.
difference. Beginner's luck?
Yeah, it's not gonna last. He's gonna be wrong for this last one.
Ooh.
Okay, we'll see.
We'll see about that. Let's check in with the brackets to show you guys just tuning in now where exactly we are. As mentioned, decider match. It is the game 5 out of 5, the last remaining match to happen today. And the Frenchman takes on the Bald Eagle, the American, in Lilbo versus Neeb, as Kung Fu Panda has secured his spot in the season finals. Gentlemen, let's talk a little bit about these two head-to-head, because were we expecting this as a potential decider match today? Probably you were. Were you expecting this, Johan?
I definitely thought it was a possibility with how good Kung Fu Panda's PvP is. And to be honest, it was a really close match when they played earlier. So it's going to be interesting to see in a rematch how they do.
Yeah, how much do you think that's going to impact this series?
Hopefully not too much, because the way that last series ended for Lilbo wasn't great, especially after that loss on Terraform there. So hopefully that doesn't affect him too much and he can still bring his A game.
Well, of course, Neeb takes the better route to the decider match as he loses his first, then picks up the confidence win in the second match and finds himself now in the decider match in the rematch versus Lilbo. What's your initial thoughts on Neeb's performances today, Todd?
I think it's kind of as I expected it. Like, he showed very good things though in game, like that war prism control in the later stages of the game, or even like decision making in general, because like PvP short games, like I think Blink can agree, like there is a lot of like those short games where like there is a lot of stuff that happens, you're like, what can you do? Like not much could have been done, but longer games, there is a lot of small decisions that come to it, and he's been doing great, I think, in that regard, even though he's lost the initial series that he played against Lilbo.
Yeah, well, Lilbo has, let's say, PvP is not his best matchup, not his favorite matchup to play. Definitely excels in the other two for sure, but here he is having taken a loss versus Kung Fu Panda. Todd, you kind of know him, you speak to him a lot, obviously, both being from France, you do that thing by speaking French to each other. Do you think he's going to be affected at all coming into this one? He knows his PvP isn't the best in the world, he's got to do it again.
I think he knows, like, he obviously still has that what it takes and, like, still needs to be focused, but at the same time, I'm not so sure. I know that personally I'd still be kind of, like, flustered by the loss that just hit, and also, like, I mean, he danced at the end, Kung Fu Panda. That's something that's very hard to get over, especially over the course of like 15 minutes. I don't know if it's enough. I know that personally I'd still be steaming, but yeah. I'm a very emotional guy. Maybe he's better than me at that.
If you're looking at Lilbo after that game, I mean, he kept his headset on, he probably loaded the replay instantly, and you just know that there was a lot of things going through his mind then, and taking that loss probably took it quite badly.
Yeah, I think that second game in particular is one of those games where it's just a bit unfortunate. He did keep his Stalkers in his base for a long enough period of time to deflect any Oracle attack if it was coming, but little did he know that Kung Fu was trying to counter a play that wasn't coming in himself, so it kind of backfired a little bit for him, so it's a bit unfortunate, but the dance, like Todd said, that does get to you. As a player, that definitely does get to you.
Sometimes, like, you play really well, and in the end, you kind of still get unlucky. Like, that one time you lost to SOS, I remember, like, you were playing really good, and you kind of deserved to win, but he got lucky, right? And it reminded me of that.
Yeah. No, it happens. Reliving the good days. Yeah, it does happen in PvP especially. So the openings of PvP is always very volatile. So hopefully that doesn't affect Lilbo, like I said, but I think it very well could.
Well, let's take a look at the map vetoes for the battleground for these two players and where exactly we go in these three maps, and how do you think these is going to potentially play out between the two of them? We have Terraform, Bridgehead, and Iron Fortress, the three.
Bridgehead's kind of a strange one to me. I don't know about you, Todd, but Bridgehead is always a strange one for any matchup, but PvP in particular, not only because of the back rocks on it, but because of the main ramp. Yeah. You can't force field it off with one force field.
Well,
Yeah, Lilbo vetoed Coda.
yeah, I was about to bring that up. What do you think about Lobo getting rid of Coda and then kind of allowing Bridgehead, for example, to come in?
Well, he's played it twice already, right? So I think I've only ever seen Lilbo do 2 builds on that map, and he's already played both of them today. So maybe he's just thinking, you know what? I'm not going to be comfortable playing builds that I've already played again in the deciding series, so I want to switch it up.
Okay, so one final question in before we go to the commentators. You mentioned that the longer the game goes, Kung Fu Panda would have been stronger and stronger against Lilbo because that's the type of player he is. How do you look at Neeb against Lilbo, keeping the same thoughts that you said about Lilbo earlier?
Well, I said about Neeb as well. I feel like the longer the game goes on for him, the more comfortable he is. And as we could see in the series that he's already played, that's where he kind of, shines. So I'm feeling the same.
I think between these two, even more so than saying like in the longer game who's going to be more comfortable, what's going to be important is that moment when they both hit 3 bases, assuming they go for 3 bases. Because in the previous series, that was the breaking point. That's really when people started making a difference with either a big attack or a big defense. So I think between Lilbo and Neeb, it's all about that 3 bases and who attacks, who doesn't, and who is it good for.
Okay, all right, gentlemen, I have to ask again. Predictions. Todd, you have to go first, man.
I mean, I'm French, Lilbo's French, I'm Protoss, he's Protoss. There was never going to be another prediction, and I'm pretty sure he's going to disagree with me too. I say Lilbo 2-1.
Okay.
Win.
I'm going to say Neeb 2-1.
Oh, Golden Boy's at it.
You know
Golden
what? I did say that Lilbo and Gung Fu were going to advance initially before the group played out, but the way that things have gone so far in the series that's just been played, I feel like Neeb's going to edge him out.
I want you to, do I want you to be at 100% right here? Do I not want this? Because if you're right, then Lilbo's out. It's crazy, but...
Yeah, it's going to be one of those bittersweet things. Like, I don't want to see Lilbo go out. I want to see him get to BlizzCon.
But I want my 100%.
At the same time, I want my 100%. Yeah.
You favorized your 100%? What a selfish guy.
It might be the start of a new career, man. You gotta start off in a good way.
All right, thank you very much, gentlemen. Awesome to have you here on the desk. But it is now time for serious business. It's decider match. Which player goes to Poland? Which player is eliminated in the round of 32?
Will Bling's predictions be as on point as his hair? That's the big question here in Group E, as we have now Neeb going up against Lilbo. And imagine if Lilbo doesn't get to the top 16 with all of his kind of mind on the BlizzCon right now.
Yeah, I mean, what an upset it would be. We've seen it happen a few times this year. There's been these like, you're the favorite, you're in the spotlight, we're hoping for you. And then suddenly there's been that tragic fall. And I don't think Lilbo wants to be that guy, man. He's going to fight for his life here.
Yeah, I think so as well. Let's get into it. The hoodie is off for Lilbo. He is taking this one seriously, as he has one last lifeline to keep himself alive. As we do have spawn down in the bottom right-hand corner, it is our blue Protoss from America. It is Neeb.
Looking ever so focused going into this match. He really wants it.
Yes, he does. And he goes up against one of the monsters here of WCS now. Means we can peg that in as he did so well in Season 2. Representing Millennium, it is Lilbo.
He's a new monster, but a monster nonetheless. I mean, he's just been getting better and better. And, he likes to take some risks with his play. We saw that in that last game and that series there, where that Oracle catching him completely out, no Mothership Core or anything. He's gonna have to tighten it up this series around. Now, going into this game, it's going to be interesting because we've seen a mix-up of styles from Lilbo. We've seen him go to the late game. We've seen him throw out some aggression. Whereas Neeblet, we've seen some PBT from him as well, but he seems really focused on that late game, doesn't he? Like that big kind of massive upgrade, Mass Colossus style.
Yeah, he has. The interesting thing, though, is that he actually opened up with a 12 gate here, did Neeb, to start things in this particular game. So just a little bit ahead, which means there is the potential for him to be aggressive and kind of play against that image that you're mentioning. But of course, it doesn't have to be that. He can still just keep going and just use this a bit more of like a precautionary measure.
Yeah, just get the Cybercore down a few seconds faster. Can always be very nice. Both players opening up quite standard. And we do see, of course, Neeb here. He doesn't want to be going out either. Actually, even checking inside his main base for proxy gates. So really making sure nothing sneaky's coming out of Lilbo. And I guess that's kind of the advantage of having this sort of aggressive persona, this reputation that Lilbo has. And Neeb, on the other hand, he's kind of like this defensive guy, and I think that move tells me he's very focused on surviving this early game phase and just kind of continuing through.
Yeah, I won't be surprised. I mean, it's going up against Lilbo, as much as he did have a relatively close series against him before, still kind of a scary guy to go up against. Gung Fu Banda was able to prevail based on the fact that he is just equally as fantastic in this matchup. And Neeb has not played this matchup for as long as either of those guys. So definitely needs to play it safe and secure.
Yeah, he's got that, being relatively new to the race, but so impressive nonetheless so far. It takes years and years to build up that range of experience with StarCraft. And for anyone newer who is watching, I mean, that's why we keep going on about this race swapping, because to get to this level within 1 year, it's actually so incredibly hard. And that's why it makes it all the more impressive that Neeb here is just one series away from progressing to those season finals in Krakow in just a couple of weeks.
In Canada, you almost...
I almost said Katowice, actually.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Well, we will be in Katowice for the first round, I believe.
Yeah, I believe we might be doing some group stage matches there.
Yeah, so that'll be a lot of fun. But of course, then going over to Krakow over in Poland. So lots of awesome StarCraft action to come once we do hit that round of 16. But both players, well, actually just Lilbo for the most part, have that pylon down as the bottom, potentially with that probe. And then, of course, the Dark Shrine already coming in here for Neeb. So there is the little bit of a change-up that it was less expected. But if he's able to get some damage,
Yeah, and meanwhile, Lilbo, he's scouting around his base with his mothership core, with his Stalker. He really wants to find
probes.
something that's going on. Oh! Does Lilbo see it?
Did he see it? I can't even tell.
Because if he sees
Stalker's moving.
that probe hiding, that is a little bit of a giveaway. Looks like the Stalker heading down to that side of the map, of course, for Lilbo. Once it cleans up. So far, he doesn't have any detection on the way. We saw Lilbo, struggle a little bit before.
Nice catch here by Lilbo. Nice catch indeed. Leaving that probe down towards the bottom. Maybe he was thinking shenanigans himself, but regardless of what the outcome would have been, he has found that probe, denied it. He's going to throw down his Robo Facility, anticipating some kind of alternate move from his opponent.
Oh, killing that pylon is so important because killing the probe, not only does it give away that Neeb's up to something, so he puts down the Robo, but you can imagine even if he put the Robo down straight away, if there was a pylon up outside his base, the DTs would already be about to run up there well before the Observer gets out. So catching that probe for Lilbo, just that great scouting with the Mothership Core, the Stalker, and the probe combined does allow him to survive this curveball DT move. Now, of course, Neeb is going to be sending that DT, making his way across the map, but it looks like the Observer is going to be out in time, and Neeb's just going to use the map control this gives him, this invisible unit, to take that Nexus behind it.
Not only that, Stalker's already on the ramp here for Lilbo by the looks of things, so going to be very, very difficult for him to even do anything before the Observer is out, never mind anything else.
The Stalker moves off
Open the door, and now he realizes he's a little bit of panic mode. He's going to have to launch a force field in that little gap.
The Observer has just popped out, and he blinks to surround the Dark Templar. Nice. Shuts it down. Beautiful move there from Lilbo, shutting it down immediately, and he is going to be taking a Nexus of his own.
All right, so this game will normalize after these small moves from one another. Neeb has his Immortals in production quite quickly, realizing that Blink is the choice from his opponent. Doesn't want to be caught off guard by anything, but he may be able to spot that Nexus pretty soon, I should think.
Lilbo has placed a pylon on the top right side of the map. You can still, these Stalkers still patrolling around. Lilbo just wants to make sure nothing surprises him in this game. Funnily enough, look at Neeb. He's sending this probe up and putting a pylon in quite a sneaky position there. Of course, that's not going to avail him too much immediately. There is already detection up. Lilbo is sitting very defensively. But if that goes unscouted in the future, we could see some really devastating damage. Of course, we saw on this map just before, Lilbo was like the Stalker counterattack when he had the massive lead, completely turned things upside down. So Neeb already preparing to have that in place.
Yeah, that could have easily gone another way had he not lost all of those probes, that's for sure. And this is Neeb just setting it up for later on, although will be spotted, so could potentially clean that up very soon. And with all the Stalkers he's got going around everywhere, he should be fine about it.
Oh, Lilbo scouting with the Hallucinated Phoenix does see the timing on that Forge, which is really important. That tells him that Neeb is really kind of macroing up here, committing to these Forges, and this is the pattern Neeb's been following, right? In all of these games. Oh, Neeb's pylon also being found. Lilbo just playing a very map control game, and look at the adjustment in Lilbo's style. He said, you keep on just playing really hard macro. Look at this. I've already got my Forge upgrading. I'm already adding my Robo Bay, and I'm just continuing to scout with the Phoenixes, and I'm denying your map control. As long as I know you're not moving out with a surprise attack, I know you're just committing hard into that economy, into that macro, so I'm going to go even harder. I'm going to take some risks. I don't need to warp in a lot of defensive units. I can just build probes and upgrades.
No, the Robo Bear is a pretty big thing at the moment. I mean, Neeb's only just got his really up and running at the moment. How many Immortals do we have out? Neeb has 3. He's going to have a really strong backbone to his army once it gets going. 4 Immortals against that. So usually in PvP, I mean, Todd explained it earlier very, very succinctly. Once you get to this position, you're usually happy to just sit around on 2 base, eventually transition over to a 3rd, and try and max out. And if Lilbo were to do anything aggressive against that number of Immortals early on, I think it would be quite the folly.
We actually, we see the gateways going down after the second gateway, only just now for Neeb, going up to 6 gateways. So really pushing that that economy, that tech, trying to get up there. And of course, knowing he's up against a Blink opening, it makes perfect sense. Those Blink Stalkers, they can really get out of control if you don't have that immortal backbone there.
Yep, we've seen that before, that's for sure. Neeb just going to send a probe down towards the bottom left. Slow mid-game here for sure between these two. Not really wanting to take too many risks. This Phoenix may have seen the probe heading over towards the 3rd, but didn't see the 3rd itself. So we'll see a loop back around from another hallucination Phoenix coming out soon.
You can see the mindsets of both players in the way they're playing. This is the elimination match, right? Both players are almost looking a little bit nervous to try and gamble anything on a big attack. They're both saying, you're a great defensive player. I'm going to just try and out-macro you and go up to that later stage of the game. And historically, in the last few series, we've seen Lilbo actually, cute pylon deny there for Neeb, buying a bit of time. We do see, of course, Lilbo, he's been hitting hard timings, right? Yep. He's been going with his Colossus Archon timings with his first 3 or 4 Colossus and really trying to finish the game early, but it didn't quite work out against Gung Fu. So I wonder if he's going to commit. I mean, he's moving across the map right now, but whether this is just a pressure or not, I'm not quite sure.
Well, at least he's got his +2 and his charge going behind this pressure, because in the previous game, his Twilight Council was a hell of a lot slower than we were seeing from Gung Fu Panda. So kind of ironing out those kinks already here from game to game, as sends that observer forwards, and he knows exactly where his opponent's army positioning is. If he had a really high zealot count here, Little Boy, I think he could probably do massive work, especially since the charge is just about to finish. And he's actually going to go forwards here. There's a Colossus maybe going to get caught out of position. There's not that many zealots with this, though. He's got to be careful about doing these kinds of things, but he's getting a lot of damage done off to the Immortals.
The Colossus range there really allowing to deal out a lot more damage, but of course, such a great defensive time warp from Neeb just slowed his army down to a standstill. And even though Lilbo was up about 10 supply before that fight, we see he's now a little bit below. But behind this, he's probing super hard. Lilbo is just trying to scare Neeb. Neeb has stopped probe production. He's so afraid of dying right now. He doesn't realize this is a fake. Lilbo is saving that energy. He can recall out of here if things go bad. But there's no way for Neeb to actually hunt down his army.
Got himself one Immortal. Gonna get himself the second one as well. Really good poking and prodding there for the cost of a Stalker or 2. Not too bad by Lilbo in that harassment, I have to say. That's
such a great adjustment. I mean, seeing the defensive stance, right? Neeb's such a great defensive player. You think, well, how do you break this defensive player? But Lilbo's realized, you know what? If he's so defensive, there's not even a risk in pressuring because he's not going to come out and fight me. He's on such a defensive stance. So it's very rare in StarCraft. You see someone investing into their economy and upgrades as hard as possible and at the same time attacking. And that's really showing the understanding Lilbo has. He's understanding how Neeblet's mindset is focused and he's taking advantage of that. And we can see him starting to edge ahead a little bit in those upgrades, edge ahead in that Colossus count, and we can see a 13 probe lead for him. So there is a nice income edge going on for him right now.
Yeah, if he were to hit when he maxes out, I mean, that would be fantastic for Lilbo. He's just got to be a little bit careful if he did go later than that, when it's like max versus max, because Neeb's army would technically be a little bit bigger. So, because of that worker difference. Although he is going up to the similar amount of workers as well.
There was actually something we just missed off. There was a DT shrine going down for Neeb, but the hallucinated Phoenix of Lilbo scouted it, and then it was cancelled. Even though there's already a DT shrine in the back of Neeb's base. What? So Neeb actually forgot, started building a second dark shrine, then it was scouted and he cancelled it. So maybe the scouting actually did him a little bit of a favor there.
Yeah.
You know, these games, it's such high pressure at this point. You're just 2 games away from advancing through, and you start to get a bit excited and think, hey, this is the point in a macro game where I drop my DT shrine for that late game DT harass, and he's just completely forgotten about it.
Like, I don't need that at all. That's all right, that. But,
I've already got one. All right.
And he'll warp in a Dark Templar and some Zealots up towards the top, one would suspect in just a moment, so he can use that to his advantage. But actually, the Stalker's... Oh, no. I thought he was going to move up there and deny. I thought maybe he'd spotted it, but doesn't look like that.
Ooh, Zealot counterattack moving in the south, while Lilbo is actually kind of maneuvering on the north side. A couple of really well-positioned cannons here for Lilbo defending this base, though, so I don't think this Zealot counterattack is going to be able to get in and do too much damage.
Drawn pretty far out of position. Nice pylon block there to make sure he can save that cannon from being attacked by these Zealots. The first one will go down, but there is a Dark Templar there as well that can start working on that position.
This is where Lilbo fell apart earlier against Gung Fu Banda, trying to pressure while taking counterattack damage, but he looks like he wants to press in. Is he going to commit, though? Once again, afraid to push all the way in, and a Warp Prism coming in. Neeb does not want to force the frontal assault, but he wants to pick away at him from behind.
Two cannons. Stalker's going to get warped in, though, to try and alleviate that pressure. He really wanted the Warp Prism, and the Stalkers are going to continue to try and chase it down. They could even get this.
Oh, doesn't focus fire with the Stalker and the Warp Prism. The Zealot Warp-In does finish, and the Warp Prism does go down, but there was such a cute little probe hold position there, which actually saved the cannons from the DTs initially. Really fast reactions from Lilbo. You can see that he's not over-focusing on the frontal attack anymore. He's really honing in on his defensive stance. He doesn't want to lose all those probes like in those previous games.
Large army advantage here for Lilbo now, as he is about to max out. Some of that is back at home. He is trying to trundle across the map here as quickly as possible, but it's not that huge a portion. This Warp Prism is all important. If we could launch some Zealots in there with that, that would be nice. But he's going to look for poke.
Such a huge supply difference, but you've got to remember these choke points. It's Terraform. This is a really scary position to attack into.
Looking for a feedback here onto that Mothership core from above, and he's actually not going to go for it. He's just going to keep moving things with the Archons actually morphing in. That's a lot of AoE damage. Huge Zealot Warpins on the left-hand side, and that is a crushing victory there for Lilbo. He's going to be able to rip apart that army. GG. Game number 1 goes to Lilbo, and that last fight was not close.
What a decisive shove there at the end of that game. You could see Neeb is just so focused on that endgame point, and he was a little bit down there, but he was going for a 4th base. He was still getting upgrades. I think he needed to focus a little bit more on chrono boosting his gateways, getting a few more units out. You can see he's a little bit annoyed at that because I think he felt like he was in a comfortable position. He was keeping Lilbo back with the counterattacks, buying time, but just didn't quite manage to reinforce his army. And Lilbo just came in with that beautiful flank of Zealots. Oh, that was beautiful. Just swept his army right up.
Yeah, it's funny because actually with that Zealot warping that he was having, aside from the flank, it didn't even need the ones that were warping in. By that time, the nail was already in the coffin. That's how one-sided that fight pretty much was there for Lilbo. And it all comes back to him having a very, very strong macro focus from the very beginning of it. You mentioned it before. Forge and Robo Bay down earlier. More probes much earlier. 13's worth. Very, very strong game there from Lilbo.
Such a smart adjustment to his play, and I always like to see this in a player. It's really hard when you're in such an important match. Like right now, yeah, your last season's runner-up, you had a great run. You're suddenly this hero of the non-Korean scene. You're such a famous guy right now. Everyone's watching you. And under that pressure, to actually not just go on autopilot, not to underestimate his opponent, and you can tell he's studied how Neeb's played in the previous matches. He's looked at that and he said, how can I adjust? I'm going to go into this and I'm just going to verify. I'm still going to scout, but as soon as I see the tells, the fast forge, you know, the defensive stance with your army, as soon as I see that you're not trying to move up with any sneaky pylons after the initial DT attack, instantly it was just like chrono boosting probes non-stop for like 5 or 6 minutes, and it was just constant economy, constant chrono boost on the upgrades. And I really like that he managed to finish it before it kind of his lead disappeared as well, right? It was very calculated when he went in for that attack. He was like, I'm not going to let you max out. Like, I know I've got the edge right now, but it'll fade if I leave this any longer.
Well, second map is going to be Bridgehead here. Not a map I expected to see too much of in the round of 32. And we do get to see it at least once in our first group. So fun times already.
It's pretty exciting, actually, isn't it? It's not every day we get to see this map.
I like it a lot. I really do enjoy watching it. I can only imagine from a playing it perspective, though, at this kind of high level, it could be a bit of a nightmare. But let's get into things. Neeb going up against Lilbo. Lilbo is 1 game away from advancing onto the round 16, and Poland, as we are spawning over to the right-hand side, it's our blue Protoss. It is Neeb.
He's flown all the way here from the US. He really wants to do himself proud here. And you can see he's kind of calmed down after that first game. Before the first game of the series, you could see him looking a little bit nervous, a little bit jittery. But even though he did lose that game, I think he understands what went on. And he knows he has to make it through this guy. Over here on the left-hand side, playing red, it is Little Bao.
See if he can make it all the way. He has a lot on his mind right now. Does not want to be losing this series. Wants to get to Poland so he can keep racking up those WCS points.
Yeah, I knowing Lilbo, he's one of these guys who would he'd just be annoyed at himself if he let himself go out this early in WCS after such a great run. His whole life is practicing this game as hard as he possibly can. You know, there's some players who are a little bit on and off with their practice. Lilbo is a guy who is non-stop dedicated to the game. He just loves playing it. He loves competing. And more than anything, he loves winning. So I think he's going to come out here. And if he keeps adjusting his play the way he did last game, I think he has a great shot.
Having never won a professional StarCraft 2 game, Pig, in myself, I don't know that feeling, but I can imagine it feels really good.
Winning is always a good feeling. And if you've done it on a big stage so many times like Lilbo, I think it's something well beyond what I've ever experienced myself, you know.
Yeah.
He's been to the top and very close to being a champion in the World Championship Series. He was actually the first player to reach the finals of the WCS in a long time. Ooh, a bit of a misplacement there, a little bit. Having to cancel that cyber core. Once the full wall off, of course, because those rocks can be destroyed very easily.
Yeah, definitely. You can just completely seal yourself off for the most part. The one thing that, of course, on Bridgehead, if you are newer to StarCraft here, is that at the back there are extra rocks which basically lead into your natural. Sometimes in StarCraft we call it a pocket natural when it is fully walled off at the back and you can just take it. But obviously Bridgehead does present this very odd dynamic that is very uncommon in StarCraft 2. And Neeb seeing the full wall off here. Likewise, this is a very uncommon mechanic in StarCraft 2. The way in which this ramp is constructed, and similar to what Bling mentioned before, is that usually in StarCraft, as a Protoss against another Protoss, you can wall it off with one force field from a sentry. On this map, however, a little bit more difficult because it is wider.
Yeah, absolutely. It's such an odd map design, and there's all those different features. So I think information is even more important here. And Lilbo choosing to obstruct that information, completely deny what Neeb can see, a really smart decision. And interestingly, Lilbo not even looking for that information himself. He's just saying, I'm just going to go straight into a Stargate here and see how it goes. Neeb on the other side also going for a Stargate, but a little bit later on.
Probe going to stick up towards the top here for him so that he can use it later on. It could be for something a bit more tricky, but Phoenix opener from Lilbo. Wow, okay, so anticipating maybe there'll be an Oracle from his opponent, but you can also use this as the scout across to start things and just get really good information on your opponent from the word go.
It's a little bit of a risky opening in some scenarios, but like it's just so powerful if your opponent goes into Stargate themselves. And even if we saw Phoenix out of Neeb, having the faster Phoenix would be amazing. Now Neeb does spot that Phoenix, but he's already got an Oracle on the way. So seeing this, Neeb knows, he's like, well, I can't catch up in that Phoenix count. Like whoever has one more Phoenix just wins a fight so decisively. So we're going to see him continue with that Oracle.
Yep, and that Phoenix will lift up that probe, so he knows that it's not even a fake Phoenix anymore, like it wasn't a hallucinated Phoenix. He may have cancelled the Oracle, though, now, if I look at things. So, yeah, he did, realizing if it had just been one Phoenix flying across and he didn't pick up the probe, then maybe he would have just been like, haha, hallucination, but that is definitely not to be, and as you wouldn't have been banked up so quickly.
Oh, wow, actually going for the lifts there on the Phoenix. On the Stalker, sorry, with those Phoenix. That's a really a nice pickup, grabbing that kill. And interestingly, Neeb is reacting to this by saying, I'm just going to take an expansion. You're going Phoenix, I'm just going to build Stalkers for defense, use Mothership Cannon, the Nexus Overcharge, of course. And the Phoenix coming in, they're going to see this. They realize what's going on. Now it's interesting, how will Lilbo react? Looks like he will be going for that Nexus of his own.
And Lilbo seeing the Stargate alone means that he knows, like, he's got a feather in his cap. That was like a little win there for him opening Phoenix and really seeing nothing about that. So he's going to leave these on patrol just in case there was an Oracle still lingering about somewhere and it would instantaneously get evaporated. with one just going to be scouting out alternate locations.
Such safe play from Lilbo, yeah. Like, he's just going to scout around with these Phoenixes. He's just like, I will not lose to an Oracle flying into my base and having no anti-air. Because he skipped the Mothership Core to do this build, right? You know, this is a very risky opening the way Lilbo did it, because he rushed that Stargate with no Mothership Core, with a single Stalker. Like, if there was some sort of dedicated gateway attack at the front, he just wouldn't be able to hold on. But he's managed to get away with it. He's taken the edge. He's kind of got the advantage of the build orders. But Neeb's response in terms of economy has been fantastic. He's already mining with 11 probes on that natural, and Lilbo has some onus on him to get some damage done now.
I mean, Lilbo's pretty much covered the entire map with these Phoenix. He has scouted out literally everywhere, realized there is nothing, and now he is completely comfortable doing what he's doing. But at the same time, of course, you know, probe-wise, a little bit behind. He would love to do some damage.
Oh, he's going to come in. He could go for the Mothership Core if he wants to. Looks like he doesn't want to take it. Just going to take a couple of probes and then fly on out of there. Actually going to sacrifice a Phoenix here. A ballsy move going in, and actually kills a total of 8 probes. Almost loses the second Phoenix, though. That's a big sacrifice, but a big economy pickup that balances out the economy.
Yeah, he had to do it. The funny thing is that early on in PvP, Phoenixes are actually surprisingly tanky. They can take a lot of hits from a few Stalkers, you know, Mothership Photon Overcharge here and there. So with the pretty much 180 effective health, they can really work wonders. And now, if he goes down and tries to do this again against just maybe 2 or 3 Stalkers, might work, but Sentry's there as well.
Oh, nice focus fire out of Neeb, actually taking down the weakened Phoenix, and that's good, really limiting that damage. And interestingly enough, you might think, well, he killed a lot of probes, but he did sacrifice those Phoenix. They're expensive tech units, and you can actually see Neeb ahead in supply and still even in workers. Lilbo's hungry, though. He's coming in to get some more damage and does snag a couple more probes.
Yeah, that's the good thing. As the game goes on longer and longer, they're not as useful, right? I mean, if he is just looking to do economy damage and then stick around on his 2 base, transitioning over to 3 and then getting max out, you don't necessarily need Phoenix. Sometimes they tickle away at Colossi, but it's not that biggest of deals.
We see the same reaction as before from Lilbo, trying to do the same sort of playstyle as he did in the previous game. Once again, Neeb in a very defensive stance, so Lilbo's saying to himself, look at this. +1 is already 2/3 of the way finished. Colossus range and his first Colossus are about to pop. He's actually just rushing up in that tech. And I think once again, we're going to see him aiming towards that big 3-base timing attack with the Colossus advantage, with the upgrade advantage, probably with the +2, aiming to hit against just the +1 or you know, no upgrades. And Neeb, on the other hand, because he's had to deal with those Phoenix, he's had to build a lot of Stalkers here, 6 Stalkers. He's kind of in this defensive stance, and we don't really see any Forge out of him. Interestingly, still no Forge, and adding 3 more Gateways and a Templar Archives. This is actually potentially an all-in out of Neeb. He might go for a big attack with Colossus Archon off 2 bases, and this could be quite powerful.
Yeah, and if it doesn't do the business, if it's not able to do much, then that's it. You've got to really hit that hard. He's getting Zealot charge, so if he mixes in a lot of Zealot charge lots, that could certainly do something. How many does Lilbo have Immortals in his composition? Just the 1. Okay, so it's not like a big focus on those at the moment.
Okay, looks like Neeb actually is still constantly chrono boosting probes. And oh, nice pickup. Lilbo actually just denied the probe that was about to place a Nexus up there at the 3rd base. So this is going to force Neeb to come down, escort the next probe down to the low ground. And, oh, Lilbo goes for the pickup again, delaying it one more time.
That's really, really well done by Lilbo. Just these knock-on effects. And now it looks like Neeb, with that Forge on the way, has finally realized that this is the case. He's going to get it again.
Oh, wow. That is devastating. I mean, this is like a 1 minute, a minute and a half delay on that Nexus. That's actually a lot of time, a lot of economy that Neeb's missing out on. And he's coming in for another pickup. No.
Oh, my. Oh, no, Neeb. This is not going so well for you, buddy.
Oh, that is so tilting. Like, can you imagine that? Oh, that's just got to be so frustrating.
Here it comes again, but I don't think he'll be able to kill this one. Will he? Oh my, that's 5. What? This has got a sting. This has really got a sting.
He's so persistent. He just keeps going in over and over. Finally, Neeb gets down that Nexus. And let's look at the other side of the map. Lilbo's Nexus is finished. He's starting to send his probes down there. He's got a big train of probes heading down now. Already going to have 14 probes. It's just a sick economy advantage for Lilbo.
+2 weapons is about to finish it. Well, he's on the way at least here. Neeb, with his army, It's not exactly anything that he can use to his advantage either. It can't really do too much for him here. As much as there is a unit up towards the back rocks, what's the one for Neeb doing? Okay, it's just 2 Stalkers. Maybe going to try and blink across here also.
That is a blinkable gap, so of course he could go in there. He's sending another 2 Stalkers, so a 4-Stalker blink squad across there is going to be great. Now, there is already 2 cannons, so they will be able to kind of restrict it. Yeah. Lilbo is just kind of playing so careful this game around.
Oh.
And he's going to dive.
Yeah, and try and do as much damage as possible here. I'm not sure this is really going to do as massive amount. Oh, but blinking all the way to the back. That's a nice little move there for him. Colossus will come along and try and shoot that down, though.
Oh, he's not focus firing. He's got to keep focusing those probes. There's a lot of damaged ones there. He's got to finish those off.
There's 2 Stalkers on the left-hand side as well, and they will be cleaned up there by a big, big Zealot force. 77 army supply against 48. And he took a probe advantage now, but the one thing I've got to be worried about is this army advantage, especially since +2 weapons has just finished and Neeb's only just started.
Yeah, this is a huge upgrade lead for Lilbo. I mean, well, 1 upgrade lead it is, but it's a big army advantage. Yeah, I mean, when you're looking at 2 lasers flying out of each one of those 4 Colossi, that's pretty big. And once again, we see an addition of gateways behind this. So Lilbo's looking to do big reinforcing warp-ins during this engagement.
This could be scary here for Neeb. He needs to survive this assault. Right now, Lilbo is looking for blood. He's looking for the kill. And he's going to go up to the high ground, start lasering some of these probes down if he's not careful. These pylons alone for Neeb need to give him the heads up so that he can evacuate out and not lose too much. But he could lose quite a few in that initial wave.
Neeb is down 2 Colossus here. He's got only 4 against the 6 of Lilbo. He does have an extra one just about to join the fray, but he's still very far down in the Zealot count as well. Only 16 against 19. He is warping in more, but there's such a big warp-in advantage for Lilbo. So if this goes into a pitched battle in the open ground, Lilbo will be favored. Neeb has to hang on to the defensive position.
Yep, Archon's warping in here as well. More Colossi in production. +3 did start for Lilbo, so it's not an all-in per se here. Good time warp though. We'll slow down some of those units. He's going to be able to get some free damage here. It is Lilbo, and he just wants to get some shots off on this probe line. It's perfect.
Devastating. Every shot can kill so many probes. Already 4 going down, forcing out the Nexus overcharge. But Neeb is getting closer to maxed out on supply. He is getting up to that point where his army can stabilize with Lilbo's in size. And then it just comes down to who has the better positioning. And of course, there is going to be a continuing upgrade advantage when that +3 kicks in about a minute's time.
All right, well, we'll see how this is going to play out right now. Still very close in the army supply, but more probes will go down. Lilbo going to play this very, very slow. The mothership core just used for scamming information. 2 Archons go loose. Ooh, loses 1. Second almost dies.
Going AWOL there, just kind of running off, trying to have a party.
What the?
Oh, the Colossus coming forward again. This is such an irritating position. Neeb's getting pulled into it. Doesn't mean to engage there, but he goes in.
This could be very bad for him. Although, that being said, he's getting a lot of splash damage up against this. The Archons try and move on to the front here. The Colossi at the back need to do a lot, but there's not really much ground army, as in gateway units underneath these Colossi here for Lilbo. He's trying to carry back where he can. The Zealots are kind of annoying them down towards the bottom.
Coming in from the bottom again. Yeah, those Zealots were just really weird direction. Didn't warp in from his pylon on the north side. Lilbo was dangerously close to getting all of his Colossus swarmed there. But with that +2 attack, with their fire down, all the Zealots just kind of evaporated for Neeb. And we find ourselves now at a very similar supply count, but Lilbo's up about 14 probes. So Lilbo does need to withdraw across the map, needs to start mining his 4th base, needs to lick his army's wounds a little bit and really let that economy kick in.
Yeah, he's at least the +3 weapons is a huge boon to him, but if he is just going back this far, he is just playing more the defensive posture. We'll eventually clean up this Stalker that is being annoying, but so many pylons on the field that if he loses them, he's gonna have to replenish them if he would get supply blocks, unless he's already got plenty more back home.
He's still got quite a frightening army though, so he might actually want to push soon himself. Lilbo is only 1 game away. He doesn't want to take any chances. He's just been so careful with his engagements. He's lost some previous matches by getting a bit overeager and attacking into bad positions. This game, he's just being so damn careful. And now that his +3's kicked in, he's getting back close to maxed out. He's adding a lot of Archons, a lot more Colossus. It looks like he's going to start sharking across the map and looking for that position to exert his army once again upon Neeb.
Yeah, just going to try and find an angle towards the back rocks towards the bottom here. There is a pylon that does spot it though, so that's nice. But he's expanding in such a way that he's like kind of tucking himself up compared to Littlebo here, who's spreading himself out with his expansions more and more. This has to be a recall, surely.
No, look at this positioning move, though. If he can kind of contain that choke, like there's no way for Neeb to move down this choke point unless Lilbo dives all the way in. So if Lilbo separates his army here, Neeb's actually going to come through the choke point. Is Lilbo going to fight here? I think he's got such a great positioning advantage if he fights Neeb as he filters down out of that choke point.
Yeah, I'll have a slight army advantage as well. And then he's building up quite the bank behind this. And he starts his shields, Neeb, so he's getting really into the later stages of his game plan, at least.
The skirmish is continuing on the top side. Look at this, Neeb being so careful with his pressure. He doesn't want to commit with the main army. He just wants to say, look, I'm just going to keep warping in here. I'm going to try and force your army out of position, and I'm going to come up and take advantage of this. And Neeb doesn't see him moving into position.
He might have completely outmaneuvered him here. If he really exerts himself through to this middle position, and now he divides and conquers, and this base could easily be forfeit, and he could just recall out, and that is a big chunk of his economy gone down the pan, because that base falls so rapidly. There's the recall out. He doesn't even lose a single Colossus off the back of that. Great movement by Lilbo.
So calculated, so calm, and once again, taking no chances. His mindset here is Lilbo says, I should advance. I was second place last season, and guess what? I'm damn well going to make it out of the round of 32. I am going to Poland to those finals, and he's just being so careful, so precise in the way he's doing it.
This might be Neeb having to just kind of throw the towel in and do something now. I mean, yes, he's got this base up and running soon, but Lilbo has a huge bank amassing now.
And Lilbo's continuing to counterattack behind it. He's trying to force Neeb's hand.
Lots of Zealots going to get completely shredded up there on the bridge.
And look at this, you can see Neeb now becoming anxious. He needs to get damage done. Those counterattacks are constantly harassing his economy. It's now running into his new mining base, and this is just so frustrating. Neeb feels the pressure. He knows he's falling further behind with each one of these attacks, and he's going to push down the ramp now.
His army supply is huge here, is Neeb's, but will it be able enough to win out against this army? War pins coming from the left-hand side. Lots and lots of Zealots here from Lilbo. He added on lots of gateways to try and make this win. It's 99 army supply against 61, though.
Zealot war pins on top of the Colossus there were actually absorbing the Colossus shots one at a time, and that actually completely turned that fight upside down. Lilbo, though, he's got much superior economy, much superior warp gates here. Look at this so patiently. Because he kept the Colossus alive, he can buy time.
72 workers for Lilbo. I think that's quite a bit too many, but regardless of what's going on, he's done a lot of crippling damage to his opponent's economy. All he has to do is buy time, replenish the ranks, and he should be able to win out because he just has so many gateways now.
And so many Archons warping in. Double Colossuses rallying their way down to the fight. And this is Neeb's last chance. If he doesn't win here, he will be knocked out of the round of 32. Lilbo needs to hang on to this Nexus.
Yeah, he's going to try. He's going to try his best at the moment. He takes an army supply advantage. Those Zealots coming in from the back as well here for Lilbo to try and push this away. Neeb's now, his army is inferior compared to the position that we're seeing in Lilbo, and plenty more Colossi come forwards. The Zealots are going to move forwards as well. And with those Zealots moving forward, that means he can move his Colossi forward. Zealot's going to warp into the back here for Neeb to try and disrupt his opponent's Colossi. Very, very close in this spot, but it's not enough for Neeb. His Colossi are going to fall. GG. And Lilbo will advance on to the round of 16 to Poland. 2-0 here against Neeb.
Oh, that's just such a relief. Look at that. You can see on his face, it was so stressful having to adjust his style so much in those games. That's one of the hardest things in StarCraft, to completely change up the way you play, take advantage of someone, and he did it perfectly. Even though he probably wasn't used to playing that, he did it so calmly, so well, and you can just see the relief on his face. It's absolutely palpable.
Yeah, it definitely wasn't the most sturdy of roads here for Lilbo, but he survives a group where there was a lot of volatility with the Protoss versus Protoss matchup, and he went up against some very good Protoss versus Protoss players. So he survives to fight into Poland.
Yeah.
And Neeb, I imagine we'll see him once again in WCS in 2016.
We will. He's showing such great promise as a player. I mean, he's got to be upset right now that he didn't make it through, but he actually put up such a good fight against every one of his opponents today, and he really was a contender. He came in as a bit of a wild card. This is one of his first big performances in a tournament since he swapped to Protoss a year ago. You look at his Wikipedia page and there's this gap since he swapped to Protoss, but we can already see he's getting that form and he's getting on that level where I think we will probably see him first season next year.
Yeah, probably. Well, that does it for us here, guys, at the casting desk. Let's head over to the analysis one with, of course, our winner moving on is Lilbo.
Thank you very much, Kalaris. Second place finisher of Group E is now joining us on the desk. I have to say congratulations. You are going to the season finals, but as much as you are going, you don't seem to be very happy with yourself. I mean, the loss earlier on, the win just now. What's going through your mind?
I don't even know the English word, but it's like all the stress is gone like on one time, and I don't really know how to express myself. But it's not that I'm not happy; it's just that I'm so happy that I don't look like someone happy.
So you are actually really happy to be going to the season
of
finals?
course, because I want to be at BlizzCon, but I don't know. I just
Is it because you didn't go through in first place? Would you have preferred that, or
I was just very stressed of not going to BlizzCon because PvP is always a bit random. So.
really? That
Yeah.
played a big factor in your last couple
Well,
of
not
games.
BlizzCon, I mean, but I need to go to WCS final because
Yeah.
BlizzCon is ultimate goal. Obviously.
So loading into that last series then with this guy, that was the biggest thing on your mind, was like, oh God, PvP best of 3, I need this. Is that...
Now the biggest thing on my mind was fucking Kung Fu Panda dancing his unit.
So you were still thinking about that loading in?
Yeah, a little bit, but the kind words on Twitter also helped me to stop tilting.
So that did hit home, that did. Because
Yeah,
Todd said it. Todd said, we didn't know if you would be still thinking about that, but Todd said, if it was me, I'd be so mad up there right now.
Yeah, like
So-
I don't know, there is just no reason to be BM. Like I had no issues with him, but now I fucking hate him.
But Sam, you got some game questions here.
I really hate it.
No, I don't have game questions. I want to know more about this.
So if you were to choose an opponent in the season finals, you'd call him out straight away.
New one except Protoss.
Okay. But you'd love to play Kung Fu Panda again if you had the chance.
No.
No, you just because he's Protoss?
Yeah.
But now you hate him anyway.
Yeah, both.
Okay, at least we got there. We
He's Protoss, so I don't want to play him, and I hate him. So
If you play Terranos Zerg though, man, you'd crush him, right?
yeah, actually it's pretty much this. Like my PvP is really bad compared to my other matchups.
Is this something that you'll look at, improving ready for the season? Because everyone knows the season finals is a big deal for you. You know, there's the chance that you could play at the global finals and so on, but
Actually, I had some issues to practice recently because ladder is not as good as it used to be, so it's pretty hard to practice.
No, I stopped playing. Ladder's gone bad, isn't it?
Yeah, I miss Blink.
why is the ladder gone bad? I mean, I might as well keep going on your answers.
What was the
Why
question?
is the ladder so bad now compared to before?
I don't want to trash people, but
there's
there
not-
is some players that play a lot and that are not good,
Okay, that's all. you
and
need
good
to say.
players doesn't play on ladder. So
But you practice with Drogo for your PvPs, right?
yeah, but PvP is still a bit random. Like when I lose in macro game, I don't know why. Like the fight on Bridgehead, like the first one behind his mini wall line, I lost the fight for some reason. Can't explain this.
All right,
I just
Sam,
don't know.
you got some.
Yeah. Obviously, after the game, the series that you played earlier, you mentioned that you wasn't too comfortable playing a macro game. So going into this series that you played macro games both games.
Yeah, because I have no choice. Like if I want to all in, I will just throw a game like I did against Kung Fu Panda. Like the second game, that first game against Kung Fu Panda, I was supposed to win like very easily, but I wanted to all in, and I think he identified it pretty well.
So would you say that you was a little bit on edge, like after the Kung Fu incident, and then obviously knowing that you've got to play macro games against a player that prefers to play macro games?
Yeah, like I know how to play macro game. The problem is just that it's still random. Like sometimes you win fight, sometimes you lose fight, and you can't really know why. Like there is some small things you can still adjust, but like it wouldn't change the fight that much. So,
I noticed that in your play, you don't add the Warp Prism to drop the Zealots onto the opponent's Colossus like Neeb does to you. Is there any reason behind that?
on the army or in my case?
Yeah, on the army.
No, just sometimes I do it, sometimes I don't, because I want to make more
Do
Colossus.
you not feel like it's a good addition?
Yeah, I think it's. Well, it depends if there is Blink Stalkers in the army, but in general, it's good. I think.
All right. Well, looking forward to the season finals now. Second place last season. Do you feel personally that you have to meet that expectations again because you've already done it, or
Yeah.
how do you look at it?
Yeah, it's not because I have already done it, but because I've done it, I have maybe the opportunity to go to BlizzCon. So if I don't do a top 2, or if I do a top 2 and I don't qualify for BlizzCon, I will not be happy with myself.
So that's your ultimate goal as a StarCraft player, is to play the global finals at BlizzCon.
Yeah, because it's like the biggest ultimate tournament. Like I would be very proud to play it. So I just do my best, and I hope I can do it.
Was that your goal before you reached the finals last season? Was that actually your goal to get to BlizzCon, or did it only become a reality and a goal for you after you made that finish?
It's always been the goal, but when before the season 2, I was like, yeah, will be hard, but still, that was the objective. So now it's even more the objective.
All right, well, thank you very much for joining us up here, Lobo, once again. And congratulations, you are going to play at the season finals, of course, representing France, joining Marine Lord to play over there in Poland and continue flying that French flag really high, hopefully, at the season finals. Congratulations one more time.
Thanks.
Let's check in with the bracket to show exactly where we are today. We have 2 players playing and going through to the season finals. Kung Fu Panda in first place, and Lilbo takes second place. A German and a Frenchman are the first 2 players out of 8 here from Europe, but also join the original 8 from the American studios where we played A, B, C, and D groups. And now we finished with Group B, Sam. It's just me and you, man. Lilbo's gone. It's just me and you.
I know, and I actually took one for the team there because, like we were saying about the prediction thing.
Oh yeah.
I wanted it to be all about me. I was a bit selfish there. I wanted people to go, you know what? I tuned into WCS today, and this bling, I just want to tune in for his predictions now. But yeah, I took one for the team there. I went for it myself. Well, actually, I didn't take one for the team. I was a bit selfish.
You took it yourself,
so
man.
I could be opposite. But yeah, I'm happy that Lilbo advanced because obviously the storyline is there. If he does eventually go on and make it to BlizzCon, I mean...
That's crazy, right?
That's crazy.
That's crazy. Hopefully he can do that. Well, thank you very much for joining us here today. We'll be back tomorrow with some more expert analysis. Hope you guys have enjoyed it at home as well as everyone in the crowd here as well. Thank you for tuning in to the World Championship Series. We'll be back tomorrow, same time, same place for Group H.